I threw a wrench into the works because I was like, I was like, we do actually kind of owe Bill thanks a little bit, right? And I mentioned Windows, right? I was like, because, okay, he's, evil. He wants to do depopulation or whatever. That's what they're talking about. And I was like, but did he ever do anything good, And it's funny because we kept going in the conversation. And then when you talk to them, you're like, okay, I agree with you. But now what are we going to do about it? What is the solution? And they judge us based on this
Yeah,
utopia that doesn't exist and has never
exactly.
existed. And if that's
Look,
your standard, we got no solution then,
look.
like
Without Bill Gates, I would have never been able to play Oregon Trail in school. And really, I think he's owed a debt of gratitude for that.
I played Oregon Trail back in school. Oh, that was good times.
Listen, I just thought it was incredible that people were sitting there, you screaming that, oh my God, Bill Gates and Meta and Zuckerberg and all these people. It's like, look, okay,
I
I
just
get
wish
it.
Elon was there too.
I don't. I actually don't think Elon was there, which is something I did notice. I thought that was very interesting that
No, he
Okay, he
wasn't
wasn't
there.
there. I'm saying I wish he was there.
I wish he had just like walked in the door playing Enter Sandman and just been like, "I'm here, bitches.
Well, I did see that he
Daddy's
was there.
home."
That was interesting that he wasn't there.
Da- if he would have came into like Daddy's Home by Usher,
Well, but
say Daddy's home.
just the entire outrage machine that fired up as a result of Trump having a meeting at the White House with a bunch of tech people. Like, guys, Trump will literally meet with anybody. I don't understand the problem. Like, why are we not allowed to meet with people? Are we not allowed to
Because
talk about anything, or is that not allowed? Like, is that what's happening now?
it's a distraction, don't you see, from the fact that apparently Trump is an FBI informant, which I didn't have on my bingo card this morning.
Yeah, well, most people
Steph,
lie
Steph,
on the fucking internet, and these are bad people. And like, I
Steph,
have
that's
no
all
interest.
you.
I have no interest in entertaining most of these people on the internet. These are very bad people. These are stupid people. They take money. They get part of these influence groups, and they think they're going to climb the ladder. And they're very, very stupid, 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 stupid people.
Yo,
And they
Tim,
say things just to say things. And I'm not interested in entertaining their fucking retarded rabbit holes that they want to try to create. I've gone down them. I've looked at them. These are stupid people, and they're not serious people, and they should not be taken seriously.
Tim Pool was saying before I was watching the show, and
All
when
right, I'm
when
not.
I was driving before, he's like, when I was young, I used to wonder why people cared about sports and they didn't care about things like the war. And then everyone got into politics, and now suddenly I really wish some of these idiots would get back into sports.
Yeah, no shit. Dude, go away. You are
yes,
not fit
Serious.
for
yes.
this.
It's like just
That is
focus
the
on
most
the game,
accurate thing.
bro.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, there are a lot of people that just shouldn't. They just don't read anything. That's one thing that bothers me the most. Like, I've had arguments with some of these people that we're kind of discussing here. And I'm like, well, what did you read? Did you read like the 15 or 20 articles about that exact topic? No. Oh, oh, oh. So, have you read anything about it? No. Oh, okay. Well, what did you see? Well, I saw a section of a podcast on TikTok. I'm like, oh, I hate you. Like, I hate you so much. Like,
Well,
you are the
think about
worst
this.
kind of person. Like,
Think about this. For all my millennials and up who grew up with sports talk radio, okay? And people would call in and they would say just the dumbest shit imaginable. Like the dumbest trade proposals and the wishful thinking. All of those people are now listening to conservative podcasts and doing the exact same thing just in politics. And to the guy who once asked Mike Francesa whether or not Aaron Judge was going to be better than Mickey Mantle, that guy is now discussing tariffs and Palantir. I just don't know if that's somebody that I really want dictating my foreign policy.
you would think. I mean, like, I do love that. What's the guy's name? The basketball player that is now like a political commentator. It's like,
Stephen A. Smith.
yes, sorry. I don't care about this guy. Like, he's literally a basketball player. Like, why am I listening to anything? And he's now like a front runner for the Democrats and like a thought leader for them. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I got news for you. He would run through the Democratic field because Stephen A. Smith is one of the most charismatic. I mean, look, I've been watching him my whole life, but he would run through the Democratic field.
I want to see that debate stage. I've been saying it for months, Kevin. I
First
want to
off,
see
I just
Stephen
want
A. Smith on a
I want
debate
to
stage.
I want to see Frank Caliendo pretending to be Stephen A. Smith on the debate stage. Like, I mean, that's a deep cut. So most people have no idea what I'm talking about. But like, Stephen A. is charismatic. He's normal. He's not insane. He is probably the Democrats' best hope. Like Obi-Wan. You're my only hope, Stephen A.
Yeah, but the deal is that he would run and then he wouldn't agree to call them all, like to go along with the trans stuff or something, and then they would attack him because he's too normal.
Exactly. But he would expose their craziness, like when Pete Buttigieg talked about racist roads and no one knew what he meant except people from Long Island.
Listen, the commentator class of people that have never read anything, that don't know anything, that like to talk about things all the time, they're very annoying. It is very obnoxious. But to all the people that were thinking that the Trump meeting in the White House today was the end of all days, yet again, I mean, I don't know how many of those we've had so far. We've had a lot. Iran was the end. Then Epstein was the end. And now Bill Gates is the end.
Oh, the National Guard was the end.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the National Guard was the end. The walls are closing in at a rapid clip. Apparently, MAGA's base is collapsing. If you have not heard, I feel like
90% of spaces are just that person yelling in the subway that like Jehovah has returned, and like he hasn't. I know because
isn't it wild, Kevin? Isn't it wild how all they were talking about was like freedom and how we're going to lose freedom and everything? But the one thing that they don't notice is that they all want you to be in lockstep with their idea, with their thought pattern, and you can't stray. Once you say, "Hey, I don't necessarily agree with you," they completely attack you.
Well,
and I'm like, how do they not see what they're doing? That's not freedom.
I can't use the phrase because if I say woke right, James Lindsay will appear. But it's like if you say Lori Lightfoot 3 times, she just pops up. All you got to do is say woke right once, and James Lindsay will mention you on a podcast somewhere.
I do like James Lindsay, just to give him the credit for that.
I don't mind him, but he's searching. He's researching for his relevant. I guess I can't say researching.
Listen to me. The problem is the woke right phenomenon is it's not that they're woke right. It's that they're just retarded. Okay. And I just don't have time for the retarded. The retarded right. The retarded right.
Good line. There's no woke right. There's just retards.
Yes, I mean they are. Like, I'm sorry, they're just retarded. Like I don't have time to argue with retards. Like my father told me a long time ago, like that there's a very, very specific thing that you don't do. You never argue stupid things with stupid people, because if you do, they will drag you down and beat you with experience every single time. It's very important. It is wise words, because every time I've ever tried to have one of these arguments with these people, they're just like, but didn't you see this one thing that came out 18 years ago that someone else read and I didn't write, but I'm going to tell you about it in an unbiased and an actual factual way now? Like, you're a moron. Like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. You're just a moron. Like, I mean, like, I can't deal with it. You've never read anything. Your AI gave you a clip to a section of an article that no one else has read in 15 years, and you believe you're intelligent. Like, oh God Almighty, just stop. Just stop it. You're an idiot, and it's okay. You can be dumb, but don't expect me to tell you that you're smart while you're being dumb. I'm just not going to do it.
It's like George Carlin said many moons ago. I base everything in life on what would Carlin do. He said, think about how stupid the average person is, and then remember that half of the people out there are dumber than that.
Yeah, that's right.
When you have Grok as your co-host, you've got issues.
Well, I don't want to besmirch.
Listen, I don't care. Like, listen to me. This show is very different. Okay, like everyone treats spaces like you walk into a bar and everyone wants to sit around and talk about nonsense. This is actually a real show that gets published on multiple different areas, which is why we run it differently. Which is why we normally have themes and everything else. Now, Friday nights are a bit different because Friday nights is just like, it's Friday night news. We go through the week. We talk about things. By the way, Kevin, I don't know if you saw our up in the top. You got to check out the Starfish of the Day. That's our new thing to talk about Senator Lujan. That's our new bit. So we're going to be having a Starfish of the Day on the show from here forward. So that's important information.
What gets someone a starfish? Do I want one?
You don't want to starfish, Kevin.
Okay, I
You,
don't
you
want
don't want to
starfish.
starfish. In fact,
Because normally you want stars. Like I remember my first grade teacher telling me that gold stars were good. That like you want to get a gold star.
That's right. See, and Senator Lujan was very mad that Kennedy didn't listen to him properly, so he didn't give him his starfish pen. So, in honor of Senator Lujan, we are now passing out Starfish of the Day as a award for for their brilliance. And from here forward, the senator from New Mexico shall only be referred to as the Starfish Senator. So,
All right, we'll make that happen. By the way, if anybody wants to see anything real good about an idiot being made to look like an idiot, you need to listen to Hank Johnson get slapped around by Nigel Farage in Congress. It is. Have you ever watched British Parliament? How they
actually,
how they yell at each other? Farage did that in Congress. It was majestic.
honestly, British Parliament. If you guys aren't aware of this is actually a very good comedy thing you can do. You can go watch British Parliament live. And I used to watch it like randomly. I just like go and like turn it on to see what they're talking about because their arguments are so ridiculous. It's like it really seems like a Monty Python skit. Like that's what almost all of it seems like. And you're just like, I have no idea what they're arguing about, but whatever it is, it's probably not important at all. And it's always funny.
When I watch
like,
that, I just think to myself, like,
okay, so yeah, to be fair, like I actually have some clips that I saved from Nigel because what he was actually talking about when it came to censorship, and this is why like GB News and everybody else like went on full on like attack mode because he was over here versus being in Parliament, and he was over here in our government, and he was talking about censorship and everything else. Actually, what he was talking about was actually very real. We just never got to it, Walt. But like, I think that people should actually hear it, specifically coming from how the entire world has recentered their entire censorship efforts into the UK. There's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
to talk about there.
Yeah, I actually would like to play some of that because that is important stuff. I mean, to me, this is something that we've covered on this show many, many times. So I would like to, if he talked about that specifically, I haven't had any time to listen to those clips, so I'd love to hear them.
Are we going to listen to it now, or can we talk about Jason Miller when we're talking about shills?
No, we're not. We're not.
Like, you know what? Like, you know what? You guys can go enjoy your time on Facebook. Like, okay, let's talk about Jason Miller and his digital comms team. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
wait,
Really?
what did
He took
That's your late breaking
150,000 of
news
my.
that you want to talk about? I'm so tired of these fucking people. Be serious or get the fuck out of my way.
wait? What happened to
Well,
Jason
every
Miller?
time I come up,
Nothing. He's a
that's what
digital
I
comms
get.
person, and she's concerned about his social media presence on social media. Like, it's fucking dumb.
He was also the CEO of Getter, wasn't
Right. Like, it's dumb. Like, I'm just so fucking tired of like
So
semantics.
he's
Well,
not.
I mean, I don't know who Jason Miller is, and I really don't care about Jason Miller. So
No, but
so
she
let
does, apparently.
yeah. Well,
Apparently, this
Oh
is the most
wow!
late
yeah,
breaking news
Every
that we
time
need
I
to talk
say
about.
something, I get trashed.
well, listen. I
Yeah,
mean,
because you
I
say
get.
stupid shit.
Well, again,
Bye.
okay, I don't care
Well,
about
it's not
Jason Miller, but I do want to hear about Nigel Farage. So if you have those
No,
clips, Josh, I'd like to hear some of those stuff. So let's listen. Let's play some of those
let's
clips.
talk about digital comms through social media. That's way more important than anything else going on, including social media and censorship going on abroad than when they've moved it to the UK. Obviously, this person is on the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of the information war. Jesus Christ, people.
Well,
You
anyway.
didn't even let me finish,
Oh
but
my
it's
God!
okay.
So look, all right. I don't know what we're doing here, guys. We're not arguing on this
We're
show.
not doing anything. Like, I'm tired of people like interjecting their own pet projects into something what we're talking about. Just because you find it important doesn't mean we all do. And to act like we don't know what we're talking about or are not associated with anything of it all is actually really fucking insulting to me. So excuse me if I went off on you. I don't know you. I don't care about you.
Well, anyway, so let's continue on with the show here. So now that we've had a good distraction, this is the political theater. We will throw you out of here if we don't like you. Just so you're aware of that.
Hey, Walter, can I give you guys a compliment? Walter, this is the chief. Yeah, hey, I just want to let you know, I've been kind of dark with my podcast because I've been dealing with some chronic pain, but I've been coming on your show pretty regular, and I came on last week and I challenged Mayor Johnson's guns are all coming from red states thing, and I pulled up the report, the trace report that they do every year, that the ATF does every year for every state, and it got picked up by Will Kane. I got some good play on it, but I just to tell you, I got invitations to be on Real American Voices and Trace Gallagher on Fox, and I think it is because of the show. And so I wanted to commend you guys. You're doing a great show. It's getting some good play, and I couldn't follow through because I can't sit in a chair for more than 10 minutes until a couple days ago. But You guys are running a good show, and I appreciate you bringing me up and let me talk every now and then.
Yeah, and my apologies. I didn't try to crash out, Chief, because I do want that, and I actually want your voice to be elevated a little bit. I listen. The problem with social media and is my biggest thing is that people don't have any kind of sense of nuance. It's only my pet project. It's only what I have to talk about, and I'm going to derail and do whatever I can to budge my way into it, and it's highly offensive to me. It's not like we don't know what we're talking about a little bit. What I'm saying is that, like, why does the subject have to change because you feel like it needs to change? That's my problem.
Here, I was having some audio issues, but yeah, Chief. No, I'm glad that you come on the show because I actually do like your show. If you guys don't know who Chief is, he's really got a great podcast that I've been on a few times. It's a great show. And like I said, we do try and keep things professional here. We try and talk about the things that actually matter because we do have people that actually listen to the show that actually matter. So we do get some decent traction. We get on some good places with it. So, we're starting to grow quite a bit. And here in the next, within this weekend, actually, I think we're going to start having live video up for this stuff. So as we move into that, we'll be having a different style of show. We're going to try and keep the spaces as kind of like the call in for the show. But generally speaking, and most of it's going to be done through live video streaming. So we can have actual clips play so people can see them, all that stuff. So that'll be coming here in the near future. So we are trying to move that along. But thanks for coming, Chief. We always do appreciate you coming in here. But yes, let's go move on. I definitely want to talk about some Nigel Farage stuff, trash. So let's go into that.
All right. So yeah. So like that's what I was trying to get to. And I was trying to get back to my computer. And so here's what happened. So Nigel Farage essentially showed up and was testifying in front of Congress, and they were asking questions about censorship. And he brought up a couple good points. And so what happened was there was a lot of like the establishment Great Britain news people that went out and tried to create a hit piece saying, well, why is Nigel Farage not here? Why is he only part of these people's party? Like, why is he only in the U.S.? Why is he not here back here? At the same time, the stuff that he was saying was actually very important because as we've seen, there's basically the censorship apparatus has moved from the UK to the US and then back to the UK again. And what he was talking about was very specific. And he and Jamie Raskin went at it. And Jamie Raskin said some very terrible things on the Congress floor to Nigel Farage. And he said, well, you know what? That's the great thing. You can say stupid things to me. It doesn't mean that I'm going to put up with it. And that's the point of free speech, right? And this is where the entire left moved, absolutely melted down. But I want to remind people, he was here and we didn't talk about it, right? And listen to this.
I'm delighted to reacquaint with the charming Mr. Raskin. A delightful testimony you gave me earlier on with your speech. But hey, that's fine. You can say what you like. I don't care. Because that's what free speech is. And in a sense, this has all been going wrong now for a couple of decades. We've kind of forgotten the Voltairean principles that we'll fight and defend to the death. Your right to say something that we fundamentally disagree with. That is the absolute foundation, if you think about it, of free speech, of democracy, of living in freedom. It's kind of why we fought 2 world wars at massive, massive cost to defend that very principle for ourselves and for many, many others around the country.
And what he's talking about, if you guys remember, a lot of people are being arrested, including a comedian just recently. He did like a billboard Chris movement where he had billboards and he said, trans kids, they didn't make their own minds up. It was done by their parents and da 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 da. Anything that you say is that could be considered hate speech in the UK, you could be locked up for. We've seen this time and time and time and time again. You can look at Tommy Robinson. You can look at many of the pushes that were going on in the UK, and you're not allowed to speak your mind at all, and you could be locked up. Well, Nigel Farage, listen, not for nothing. He did garner a certain percentage of Parliament moving into the UK in the last elections, and he seems to be gaining steam and gaining more popularity. And so he came over here back on September 3rd, which was 2 days ago, essentially, and was testifying in front of Congress. And the Democrats did what they tried to do to Bobby. They did the same thing with Nigel Farage, and that's what he was talking about. Like, listen, you're welcome. I'm welcome to disagree with you. I think you can say stupid things, and that's okay. Like, you can say stupid things about me, or you can say stupid things at all, and that's okay. And we don't need to censor any of it. And this is actually, so I'm actually going to play the full clip, Walter, because I'm actually pissed off that people try to derail off of this. And I have questions about you. I got to be honest with you.
Very much
Not
indeed.
you,
Good
Walt.
morning, everybody. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, for inviting me
Oh my God.
here today. And it turns out,
Dude, Twitter is absolute crap show. Are you kidding me? You can't even
Yeah,
pause it?
At some point, we're gonna have to figure out how to like get audio clips off of this platform so we can play them without having to worry about this stuff. Because
Yeah, I couldn't pause it. I couldn't turn it down. There was nothing I could do. That's crazy. No, I want to play the full clip because this is something that I mean, you and I, Walt, you and I have gone on censorship for some time. And I would like to play the full clip coming from a guy who is kind of like on the right-wing populist end in the UK talking about censorship in front of our own government and being chastised the same way that Bobby was chastised by these Democrats. They're not really actually asking questions. They're not really debating anything. They're just saying things for 3 or 4 minutes and you're not allowed to respond. And it's like, well, that's not really any kind of free speech, is it now? And so I want to play the full clip. I've reset Twitter because it's just a shit show. But I
Hey,
think
real quick, trash, real quick. I might be able to pull these audios for you guys or create something for you to do that. Do you want them off of Twitter? Is that what you want? You want to actually take it from clips on Twitter?
Yeah, Keymaker, I'll talk to you offline about that because that's something we're going to work into the show.
Okay.
Yeah,
shoot me a DM. Yeah, shoot me a DM.
We're trying to create an archive. Yeah, because like I follow a bunch of people that I get specific clips from. I go to the MRC archives looking for something specifically. We're trying to create essentially like access to media. And I think that's what we should be doing. But listen to this.
very much indeed. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, for inviting me here today. And it turns out, with news in the last 48 hours, to have been really rather timely. I'm delighted to reacquaint with the charming Mr. Raskin. Delightful testimony you gave me earlier on with your speech. But hey, that's fine. You can say what you like. I don't care. Because that's what free speech is. And in a sense, this has all been going wrong now for a couple of decades. Jordan, for inviting me here today.
Dude, Twitter's done. It's toast. This is a 5-minute clip and it just restarted at 32 seconds. My apologies for the recording. For people, it's Friday. My apologies. This platform is toast.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is. I was having some issues earlier. And obviously I've already had to reset the space twice for myself. So, it's just an annoying thing, but we'll figure it out eventually. But, I know what he was going to go on there about, which is good. And this is Nigel Farage, there's a lot of people that don't like him, that hate on him, but he's actually done quite a lot for the UK, and the Reform Party is actually starting to move in even a further direction than him. There's another guy. Did you guys see that podcast? It's called Lotus Eaters. I've never heard of it up until here recently.
Yeah, Carl Benjamin.
I heard of that.
No, Carl Benjamin, those guys, like, listen, that's actually a solid podcast. I haven't listened to it in a couple of years, but they were really good back then. That's Carl Benjamin and a couple other guys.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I listened to an episode they had the other day, and it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I was listening to it, and they were talking about there's a new guy, Lowe. I think the guy's name is an MP. He said that there's like he's like the only MP that's actually talking to Brits and actually talking about like real issues, which is a terrifying thing. This is something I've actually talked about on a few times here. That I have a number of people that follow me that are from the UK, and a lot of them, when they message me, they say the same sort of thing. They all say the same thing. They say, I wish I could post, but if I post publicly without DMing you, I will be arrested. And that is, that's ridiculous to me. I have never once on anything that I have ever posted, including all of the, posting that I did on the Donald and all those places, which is essentially just meme wars, never once even sort of thought about that. And there's people in entire countries in a Western country that worry every single day that if they post something, that the police will arrive at their door and arrest them. I mean, I think I saw yesterday, the day before, that there's 30 something people a day per day being arrested in the UK for what they're saying online. That's craziness to me. That these people need to be completely ostracized. Like, I mean, at that point, I think we need to start treating the UK as like, North Korea. What's the difference? Like, I mean, why are we talking to these people? Why are we acting as if there's some sort of bastion of Western thought. You're not Western if you do not allow people to speak. Okay, you're not a Western country. You do not hold Western ideals if you do not allow people to speak their minds. And it's amazing to me that England, of all places, is having so many problems. But that just goes
Well, I
to
mean,
show
it's
you.
not really England anymore. The country's been completely captured.
Well, I mean, but the point is, right? I mean, they're not they are not the a Western idealed country anymore. At least they're definitely not purporting to be one. Even though Starmer is every day coming out and saying we're deporting people. Like, are you? Congratulations! Like, you should have been deporting people 10 years ago when they were raping all of your children, but you didn't do it then. You just covered it up. So spare me, Starmer. I'm not very impressed.
All right, I think I got it sorted out. I agree with you. I think I got the clip sorted out. I think I'm gonna play it again. Here, we're gonna try it one more time.
All right.
Damn app.
48 hours has been really rather timely. I'm delighted to reacquaint with the charming Mr. Raskin. The delightful testimony you gave me earlier on with your speech. But hey, that's fine. You can say what you like. I don't care. Because that's what free speech is. And in a sense, this has all been going wrong now for a couple of decades. We've kind of forgotten the Voltairean principles that we'll fight and defend to the death your right to say something that we fundamentally disagree with. That is the absolute foundation, if you think about it, of free speech, of democracy, of living in freedom. It's kind of why we fought 2 world wars at massive, massive cost to defend that very principle for ourselves and for many, many others around the country. And I first became worried about all this with cancel culture. The idea that we can't have this speaker go to a university because some people might be offended by what he or she have to say. It is important to note that there is not a parent in the United Kingdom, and I would guess it's the same for America too, that is not concerned about content their children as minors can find on the internet. Not a single parent that is not concerned about this. But at the moment, we're not finding the right solutions. I do myself begin to think that hardware might be one of the solutions. That laptops, that handsets could be programmed so that many apps and many services simply aren't available from these devices. But what we've done is to go down the legislative route. And it's extraordinary that, I come from the land of Magna Carta. I come from the land that gave us the Mother of Parliaments, and it doesn't give me any great joy to be sitting in America and describing the really awful authoritarian situation that we have now sunk into. J.D. Vance did us all a service at the Munich Security Conference back in February this year. He really got this debate up and running, and it's a vital one. We've run on since then. The Online Safety Act was put in place by the last Conservative government. I don't doubt for a minute they're good intentions, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with those good intentions. And we are now where we are. We have a couple of very famous cases. We, of course, have Lucy Connolly, who put out an intemperate tweet after the savage murder of those 3 beautiful young girls, she herself, a mother who had lost a child. It was intemperate, it was wrong, but she removed it 3.5 hours later, sentenced to 31 months in prison. She's now out, having served.
These girls were murdered and raped and many other things. And she kind of flew off the handle and she put something out on social media and 3.5 hours later deleted it and served 31 months in prison for it. So excuse me if I don't want to deal with your pet projects. And excuse me if I don't want to deal with your, counter messaging on what I'm talking about, censorship or tyranny of an overbearing government, or how I have a sitting member of Congress and Tim Kaine as a senator who was a former vice presidential candidate under Hillary Clinton come out and say, well, rights and your right to speech and your First and Second Amendment are ordained by the government, not by God. Excuse me if I don't care what you have to say. I'm sorry. I am not willing to die on that hill wall. I just can't. And there's 2 more minutes of this, but I think it's very important to point out in the contrast of how censorship and tyranny has made its way back into the UK again. and how, ironically, we're probably going to have to be one of the ones that saves it. And he brings up JD Vance when JD Vance was in the countryside and said, we'll do business with you. We'll absolutely honor this agreement that we have both with you in the UK and in the EU, but you're going to have to drop the censorship stuff now. You're going to have to drop the persecution stuff now. And that's where we're at. This is a serious topic. So I know it sounded like I crashed out. I didn't. I'm really tired of being derailed and prevented from talking about this. This is a really important conversation. And we are at a precipice right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, in the censorship topic has obviously been something that we have covered specifically, very, very in depth. For those who don't know, if you haven't read our disarm research and our disarm reporting, and you can go back on my highlight thread, and there's a whole thread talking about the AI machine that they built specifically for censorship. That whole thing was transplanted to England. In fact, they were developing it in England. We have the documents and the photos of them in the meeting there in England talking about it. So, the fact that this stuff still exists is a problem.
Like the CCI leak stuff, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, all that.
Yeah. So the British Army intelligence officer, S.J. Terp, Sarah Jane Terp, she was British Army intelligence. She was working inside our intelligence communities over in our Five Eyes offices, along with like Gina Haspel and many other people, and came over and had a meeting in the Obama White House and then levied this stuff on the American people post 2017. We've been yelling about it. We've been censored by it. We've been removed, debanked, deplatformed, and othered and other personed by these systems. And now it's reforming again. And I have somebody who, whether you like Farage or not, it's irrelevant to me. I'm an American politician guy. I'm not a British politician guy. But he is a right-wing populist, and he is talking about it. And he's talking about it in the halls of our Congress 2 days ago. And no one talks about it. Instead, no one talks about it. And the adversarial left-wing rags over in Britain were smearing this guy for saying the things that he said. I still have 2 minutes of what he's saying here. I'm sorry. Don't derail me on this. This is one of those things where I'm just going to lose my shit if you kind of come at me on this.
Hey, Trash, and it's interesting that how quickly this happened in the UK. I mean, I remember watching the great debater Chris Hitchens. Chris, I loved watching that guy. He was fantastic until he died of cancer. And and one of my YouTube channels that I pull up every now and then and watch is the Oxford Union, and for it to go so quickly in England, and for them to not see how far this is deviating from the Western political thought stuff that they helped develop, that we all patterned our governments off of, is crazy to me. And I mean, they have a great tradition of free speech, and somehow they've forgotten how important that is for democracy.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, but more than just like it being important for democracy and whatnot, it's just important in general. But like the problem is, if you don't root out this entire apparatus, this censorship machine, if the left wing the radical left manage to get back in power, they'll just transplant that whole thing right back here again. We'll be right back where we were before. So that's why it has to be destroyed. I mean, it has to be rooted out completely. And it's kind of a problem because there's a couple aspects to this that are a problem. All right. So one, the initial idea behind anything to do with, information restricting or anything like that. The initial idea was actually written even long before all this stuff, long before the actual machine was built and used against Americans, used overseas and whatnot. It was created for a real purpose. And the real purpose was you can't allow hostile nations to pump in bad information into your information space at a random, rapid clip. That is a problem. I mean, look what China did. The China has done with TikTok. Okay, TikTok is a perfect example of this, which is why I don't know why anybody has TikTok. I think it's a Chinese spyware that is designed to essentially be an information weapon for the Chinese government. But you just think about it for a minute. Okay, it is a problem that a foreign nation can just pump information directly into the American populace. They can create a whole narrative overnight. They can create all sorts of problems overnight. They can create new ideas overnight. It is an issue that they need to address, but that doesn't mean that you create an AI weapon and then weaponize it against American citizens and then deem whoever you want as Russian agents or Hindu nationalists or whatever it is that you want to call us I mean, we've been listed as every possible thing underneath that you can think in the book. That's how they labeled us. We found the database that showed it. We found our friends in the database that they listed as Russian assets. Okay, so if they spare me on trying to tell me that it doesn't exist. All that stuff has already happened. But the problem is that you have to address the real issue. And this system that they built was built by left-wing, blue-haired goofballs. Like, we need a system that actually works. Something that is designed, like, I mean, think about this just in general. Like, China by itself, okay, to even access China's internet, they have a giant firewall. To access their number one social media thing, you have to have someone in China send you a QR code so that you can prove that you've been or are in mainland China just to access WeChat. You can't just download it like you can here. Okay, so to figure out how to solve that problem is actually a real issue. And instead of actually solving the problem, they created a AI system that was designed to go out and find what they considered right-wing hate speech and then censor all of those people. Like, I mean, we took something that was supposed to be important, something that was necessary, and instead we put idiots in charge of it because the left-wing media, no, not just left-wing media, just the left-wing policies, the left-wing politicians are morons, and they have no idea what they're doing. And instead of actually taking an issue seriously, they used it for their own political benefit. And that's why these people are sick. That's why these people need to get rid. We need to get rid of these people. But further than that, in the case of the UK, we need to get rid of all of these policies. We need to make sure we get rid of the apparatus entirely, because if we don't, they will use it again. I mean, go look what they're doing right now, right? Okay, so there was something today. I don't know if you guys saw this, that they're trying to sue Google now for $3 billion or something like that in Europe. So they're trying to attack Google, and that's probably for a Digital Services Act violation. That's my guess is what it probably is for. That sort of stuff needs to be dealt with, because the Digital Services Act, I don't know if you guys ever read that thing. I mean, I read it extensively. That entire agreement is insane. If they deem you a problem, so if they deem your company like a social media platform, if they deem you that you're too large, if you're I think it was like if 16% of the population of the country of a certain area has the ability to access or does access your platform on a regular basis, then you considered a large social media company. If you violate that, they were able to charge you up to 6% of the revenue of your company. And at one point, while they were going after Elon during this whole mess, they'd said that, well, not only are we going to go after just the revenue of Twitter, we're going to take that and say all of the revenue of all of your companies that you're attached to, because you're the owner. So we're going to make sure we go after all of your companies for 6% of your revenue. I mean, that's insanity. Like, well, what are you talking about? In most companies, by the way, guys, most companies only operate, especially in a service-based or tech-based type thing. They usually only operate with maybe a 10% revenue, but like that's their profit is the 10%. So you're saying that you'd be able to take more than half of their profit just because you don't like what they're saying online. That is something we can't allow to happen either. So all of that stuff needs to be overturned. They need to get this stuff out of here, because if they allow it to keep going there, they will push it again here. I guarantee you they're already going to try and push it again here somehow. I mean, the Restrict Act was the first version of it that they attempted here, and it was a disaster. We got rid of that, but it'll only get worse if we don't get rid of it.
Hey, Walter, this just dovetails into your conversation last night about RFK and COVID. You couldn't talk about anything, and that was censored too. And the thing about free speech, it isn't just about your political thought. It's about challenging assumptions, and that's why Western democracies, the United States, does well, because they can talk about it. They can question. They can say, I think we need to look at another direction. In China or the Middle East, they don't progress because you have to go down the ideological line, and that restricts innovation. That restricts thought. That's why it is so important to have free speech, because free speech inspires broad thought, broad thinking.
Well, and it's not just it's not just that. It's the biggest thing that you need to create new thought and create innovation and whatnot is you need a clash of some kind, which is one of the reasons a lot of people argue whether or not the United States has a good system with the two-party system. I argue it's the best system, actually, because it forces consensus. Whichever group of the two manages to get closest to the center is the party that wins. Okay, and that's just how it works. There's only two options. You can choose these two, and you can go vote for the Green Party if you're an idiot, or you can go vote for the libertarians if you're really, really stupid. Like, I mean, you actually are dumber if you're a libertarian than you are if you're on the Green Party. But that's a whole other topic. But the deal is the two-party consensus, I mean, it forces consensus to the center. So you have to come to that clash, and that clash creates better ideas. And the more that they clash back and forth, the better the ideas come. And that's the same thing for speech and the same thing for new ideas. When you're coming up with a new idea, if you come up with a new idea and 0 people, and I mean 0 people, are allowed to look at you and say, that idea is retarded. Because sometimes people come up with really, really dumb ideas. Like that happens all the time. So you should be able to tell that person, that idea is possibly the stupidest thing that I've ever heard in my life, and you should be ashamed of even coming up with it in the first place. You should be able to tell someone that immediately. And in fact, it's a good thing if you're in a scenario where someone does that, right? So if you're in a scenario where you come up with a really dumb idea, you say something stupid, and someone goes, yeah, you're an idiot. That's good. That's a good thing for you. Because then you won't be an idiot anymore if you listen to them. And if multiple people tell you that you're really stupid about it, you really, really should stop. You should start thinking about it, which is the other part of the censorship apparatus that makes it such a problem. Because what they did is they created fake versions of that. So, you online, when you're interacting with people online in your comment sections, they would create bots that every time you said something normal, they would immediately attack you saying, oh my God, how could you possibly think that? How could you possibly come up with something so violent, bad, and evil and horrible? And they took that part of human psychology and turned it against people, even though they were talking about the good ideas. Even if they had a legitimate idea, like how about the simplest idea that there possibly could be? There are only men and women, and there is nothing in between. And you were somehow chastised for that. And they started telling people that, well, you're just a bigot if you think that. Like, that's how insane these people were with these policies and these radical censorship stuff. You cannot allow that stuff to continue. You cannot allow that sort of insane ideology to permeate everywhere, because if you do, you're going to create terrible ideas. And listen, ideas have serious consequences. Okay, there's a great book actually that's titled that, Ideas Have Consequences, by Richard Weaver. It's written about the 1950s. I recommend everybody read it. Because one of the problems that humans do, we have this major issue. We continuously repeat bad ideas, and we never seem to learn from them until something really, really terrible happens. And we've done this in history, throughout all of history. We've done this continuously. And for the love of God, we cannot repeat the same problems that we had in the early 20th century, because millions of people died as a result of these bad ideas. So let's not repeat those bad ideas again. And that's what we're trying to do right now. This radical socialist stuff, this communist ideals. If we repeat that now, the catastrophe that will underfall the world is far worse than anything anybody can possibly imagine. So it is actually important to make sure that you don't censor good ideas and you don't attack good ideas, because if you let bad ideas foster, you have no idea what the consequences will be. And if you would like to learn what the consequences will be, I can recommend you to quite a few books talking about all of the insane experiments that were done by the ludicrous people in these death camps during World War II. If you want to learn, go find out what bad ideas actually do, because they are not pretty. Especially if there's a great quote by I think it was actually Jordan Peterson that said this at some point. He said, if you think that strong men are a problem, wait until you see what weak men can do. And that's what weak men are, people that censor things. Okay. Weak men are the people that can't take a punch or take something that you criticize them and they immediately collapse onto the floor into a puddle and cry. If you think that the people that are strong that can take those types of things, if you think those people are a problem, wait till you see what the people that can't take criticism will do, because they are far, far worse. And it's been proven throughout history. We've seen this a million times, but we always seem to forget it.
Yeah. Change and enlightenment starts when one person says, I think maybe we need to do this. I have to tell you, I've been through a lot of leadership programs. Probably the best one I went to was the Naval Postgraduate School up in Monterey, and it was for Homeland Defense and Security. A lot of high-level folks all across the country, federal, state, and local. I was the chief of LA Metro at the time, and read a lot of books about this. And one of the things they talk about is exactly what you're talking about. Leaders need to be open and listen to the people. And the best leaders, and we read a lot of books, the best examples of good leaders were people who had open dialogue with the people in their organizations. And we were talking about organizational change. They had the best impact because they listened to everybody, and they were willing to take criticism of their own ideas. And when you do that, the rabbit holes that you think we need to go down, you stop and rethink those, and you get on a better path. And in organizations, you develop what you call a feedback loop. And as you go through it, you continually ask those folks, well, does this still seem like the right way to go? And then you make adjustments as you go along so you can build something that is successful and that works. And these leadership programs, they've served us well, particularly really good ones, particularly when they're done in the military. Yet, and these types of leadership programs, if we listen to the left, we have to refrain from saying certain things, and that is detrimental to good organizations, good governance, and accomplishments.
Well, the feedback loop is probably the most important thing that I talk about this every now and then. I've brought it up before, but if you don't have a legitimate feedback loop, one that doesn't just sit there and tell you, and then this is the problem with the idea of affirmation. If you affirm someone constantly, if you're in a scenario where every single person that you talk to agrees with you, that is not a good scenario for you. And I'm not talking about I'm not talking about just generally, like when you're on a conservative talk show or something like that, generally everyone's going to have some sort of principle that you're all going to genuinely agree on. But that's a foundational principle. But at some point in the fringes of that, you're going to run into stuff that everybody disagrees with you on. But that's important. But the problem is when you run into a scenario where you don't have, nobody is allowed to change their mind about anything. They have to affirm everything that comes out of your mouth. You are in a very dangerous situation because you can convince yourself of all sorts of insane things. If everybody is aware of this, okay? Humans are very strange creatures. We can do all sorts of weird things. We can convince ourselves of all sorts of very, very strange ideas and all sorts of, you can get stuck in a loop where you've convinced, I guarantee you everybody in here has done this at some point in their lives. They have convinced themselves of a very, very bad idea, and they are sure of it. They know this is a good idea. They know it's a really good idea until that illusion finally shatters and you go, oh my God, I was being dumb. Oh my God, I was being an idiot. How could I have not seen that before? And that's because someone in your loop didn't, if you missed it, if you completely missed that, it's because you didn't have somebody in your loop that sees something that you don't. Okay, like when you have a whole group of people all talking about the same topic, when you have a whole group of people up there talking about something similar, and you have multiple brains thinking about the same sort of thing, the amount of computational power is much higher, but you've also got a whole bunch of different experience. You've got people that can actually talk about it from, okay, well, I was a cop, I was I was an investigator, I was this, I was that. This is how you create a good consensus, a good loop of information. But if you were sitting around and none of you've ever done anything, and the only thing you talk about is your problems, and you talk about how it's the world's fault that it's your problem. The world has caused your problems, and oh my God, I will never succeed. I'll never do anything because the world has caused my problems. You are never going to get out of that. You're sitting there in a feedback loop where everyone's going, yes, that's right, it is the world's problems. You know what you should do? You should blame the world for everything that you've ever had that's a problem for your life. That is the worst possible result for you. And the problem is when you get stuck in a loop of people that are all doing the same thing and all telling you the exact same thing, how are you going to get out of that? You're never going to be in a scenario because every time you screw up in that scenario, everyone goes, well, it's just the world's fault. That's a problem. That's a huge issue for you. And you need to address it. You need to figure that out, because if you don't manage to pull yourself out of that kind of loop, you're never going to grow. The only way you grow in life is by challenge. And, try and figure out the best way to come up with something else. And if you're not challenged enough, if you're bored, then go do something else. I mean, I hear from people constantly, like, what can I do to make a difference? What can I do to do this? What can I do? Like, listen, I can't tell you how much time to put in to trying to make a difference. I can't tell you how much time you can spend, but it's up to you. I mean, if you want an example of how one person can do something, I went down to Virginia to try and help out and see what I could do with this election down there. And within a month, we've broken two major stories that have absolutely rocked a campaign. And that's one person going down there. I'm not funded by anybody. I'm a completely independent person. I've got nothing to do with anybody. No one's paying me. No one's doing anything like that. This is just what I thought I could do to help was, all right, I'm pretty good at investigating stuff. Let me go talk to people. Okay. You start talking to people, start giving you information. Okay. Now we've got something. Now come up with a narrative, push it out. Okay. It's not about what can you do? It's what are you willing to do? I mean, if you're willing to go out and actually find something and try and actually make a difference, you can do it. You just have to do it. No one's going to help you. That's what a lot of people are always like, well, where can I help? Well, why isn't anybody helping? Like, stop waiting for someone to save you. Go out and do it on your own. If it takes you doing it by yourself, then do it by yourself. You'll be surprised. People will probably follow along. I mean, that's usually how this works. But if you're living in a world where you don't ever do that and you just sit in your house and let everybody around you tell you how great you are, even though you've done nothing, then you're screwed. You're going to be a loser. And I'm sorry, like, you should be told that you're being a loser. That's what should happen. But we created this fake world where everyone was allowed to sit there and tell everybody that are losers. There's these people that have blights upon society that have done nothing with their lives, never intended to do anything with their lives, and their intention is just to sit around and tell everybody how great they are. Well, and you wonder why we have problems in this country.
Yeah, I think you can look at MAGA as a typical example of that. You have a fairly large group, but there's still a minority group talking and saying, no, this is not right, the direction we're going. We need to change. We need to change. We need to change. Even as people are trying to suppress their voices, they continue to say it. And I was one of those guys that was on the fence, listening, evaluating, and then ultimately they won me over. And I don't want to say join the movement, but I support what they're doing, right? But that took a lot of people who had the guts to stand up against the censorship, but also to stand up going to prison here in the last 4 years. And the movement just grew because people saw the hypocrisy. And fortunately, places like X and podcasts and other outlets were able to get that word out. But more and more people stood up until MAGA now is the dominant movement in the United States, even as it continues to get attacked. But it's an example of a smaller group of people standing up and sticking with their convictions and winning over more and more people as they begin to learn and understand. But that's the value of one person saying, first, I don't think this is the right direction. I think we need to go in this direction. And you can't do that when they're constantly censored and pushed down, which is why the conversation we're having is important. It talks about the successes of people who start with just one person who can start a movement and move us in the right direction, simply because people listen and they filter through their own experience and they say, he's right, I'm going to follow him.
And that's exactly what Trump did. Trump was actually saying what everybody else was thinking, and that's why he's been so successful in it. The MAGA movement specifically, the reason it does well is mostly because it changes. It's not like it just stays static the whole time. There's things that we think are different and people we don't like some aspect of it, or we go after something and it's like, oh, maybe that's not good. But, if you notice, the administration actually does pay attention to what people say. They're not just sitting like idly by. Like, if you want to look at an example of what an administration does when they don't pay any attention, look what the Biden administration did. Okay, so they failed on every single thing that they did. Every aspect of it. Every single decision they made was bad. But what did they do instead of trying to course correct any of those things? They didn't course correct it. They did the opposite. They said, no, screw you. I'm not doing anything. Like, how dare you question us for, challenging our ideas? Like, how dare you say that's a good thing? Let's go. We're going to put you in prison, or we're going to take your bank account, or we're going to try and censor you, or we're going to remove you from the internet. I mean, say what you want about the people like Alex Jones. Alex Jones is one of the first people that I was like blown away at how badly they censored him. For those who don't actually follow him or you actually know a lot about his content, Alex Jones at one point, if you guys don't know this, he had an app. So he was coming up. He was like very popular on social media and all these other places. And he had his own app that was being released. So it was maybe a month or two after his app had come out, they removed him from every single social media platform on the planet. So every single social media platform took him off there immediately, and they shut down his brand new app that he had just put out. So they just removed him from everything. I mean, people need to realize how much of a problem that really is.
There's even on X, though, you still get the free speech stuff. There's two issues that I talk about pretty regular. One is overdose deaths, particularly with fentanyl. And when I post on that, it's suppressed. I don't get as much push. I don't get as much attention. And that was before Elon bought it, and even afterwards. And the same thing with suicides. I mean, most people don't know, but the number one demographic for suicides in the country is white men, and it doesn't get talked about, right? And I track the numbers here in LA, and it's been white men by far. But our county, they got the diversity slide ruler out, and they check every other group to see what they're doing, but they don't check white men, which are the leading demographic and always have been by far, right? But when I talk about suicide or suicides of cops, I can't get any good play, and yet that is a very serious issue, and I don't understand why the algorithms shut something like that down. I think voices who are trying to get the word out and do something right about those things, we need to find a way to get those voices out, because I can't believe that X is suppressing it for villainous reasons. Maybe there's certain subjects they just don't want to talk about, but these are subjects that have to be talked about if we're going to make a change. For example, let me give an example on suicide. One of the reasons why women attempt suicide more than men, but one of the statistical things they found here in LA is women are more engaged in the medical system. So because they're more engaged in the medical system, they seek help, or the medical system reaches out. So what's the answer to that? If we're talking about male suicide, then so that's the thing you need to replicate with men to reduce the number of suicides involving men. But since we don't talk about white men because it's not popular, and we can't talk about suicides on social media platforms because don't want to talk about that bad subject, we can't get to those solutions, or we can't get to those ideas.
Well, and you're asking like whether or not X is suppressing that stuff. One of the problems about the content moderation nonsense that they did, which was woven into pretty much every aspect of every single social media platform, is that by doing that, you don't know like what the coding that they wrote in. They don't want to talk about things that are violent or things that are upsetting or things, like, you have to go through the whole litany of things they just created out of nowhere to just randomly decide what you can and cannot talk about. It's a big problem in my eyes, which is one of the reasons I actually support Substack. Substack is where my platform is. If you guys want to subscribe to me, you can go up to the top. There's always a link up there. But the reason I like Substack more than anywhere else is because there is no algorithm. It is just whoever is following you, and that's it. Everything that you post gets pushed out to your followers. Your followers will see it, and that's just how it goes. There is no algorithm to it. They have like a new notes version or whatever the hell it's called. That's their like their social media version of it. That's like posts and stuff, but no one really pays much attention to that, as far as I can tell. I mean, some people do, but it's nothing in comparison to X. But the deal is that all of your writing and stuff like that, or your podcasts and stuff like that, your followers will see it. I mean, it goes out to your followers. If they're actually following you and actually paying attention to you, nothing stops it from going out, which is why I like that platform better, because the content moderation quite literally doesn't exist. In fact, at one point they were trying to pressure Substack into something, because they were publishing, there was like apparently a bunch of like Nazi people or something on there, and the owner of Substack came out and said, "Yeah, I don't care. Like, nope, they can do whatever they want. I'm not going to stop any of it. I'm not even going to hire a content moderation team," which I think is the correct response in my eyes. They could listen. If you want to talk about really, really deranged, terrible things, go right ahead. You just feel free, but you just know that you should be mocked through all of existence for the stupid things that you were talking about. Simona, you have been trying to talk for a minute now. Go right ahead.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak. This is the first time I'm speaking in this space. Thank you very much for letting me say what I need to say. We are in a very danger, and we have to fight very much for freedom of speech, because if we lose freedom of speech, we're going to lose the Second Amendment. And that's why their goal, not let us assembly, speak together, and then they're going to go off after our guns. Look at what Melania Trump put a letter in regarding the transgender. They should be banned to get armed. I'm not agreeing with that. Nobody should be banned. They should be checked, but nobody should be banned to bear arms, because then only criminals gonna have arms. I don't think Melania actually she said that. As Eastern European myself, I think she probably was kind of coerced to say that, and I don't think she wrote the letter. But she's in a position that she has not much to say. She has to follow her husband. And that's my point. I don't for any other thing that she has to send letter from Putin, ignoring Gaza. I think she's in a position that she doesn't have much to say. But
well, Simona, there's one aspect about that I will talk about, because I've seen a bunch of people talking about this idea, like the idea of banning trans people from getting guns or something like that, which when you hear it said like that, sounds terrible. But let me phrase it to you a different way. Should
completely deranged individuals that have a tenuous grasp on reality that are taking high doses of extremely powerful hormone drugs that have untold side effects on your mental psyche that are not really well documented. Should those people be able to access firearms?
I agree with you, but I'm saying they should have been checked. They should have blood tests.
I know what you mean. I'm just saying this is the reason I say it like that is very specific, because when you hear people talk about this, like I've seen a bunch of people say this, like, well, maybe we should take the guns from the trans people. Like, no, that's not how you should phrase it. It's not taking the guns from trans people. It's people that are completely disillusioned with reality should not have firearms. And that is very obvious. You would not hand a loaded firearm to a paranoid schizophrenic who is off his medication, would you? No one would.
No. I agree with you, but the problem is next time it's going to be a black man, a white man, or Chinese man.
Completely different.
It's
Completely
not the same
different.
thing. And this is the same argument. I've actually heard the same sort of idea before. And here's the major difference. There was even somebody that tried to tell me, like, well, what if they start classifying patriotism as a mental disorder? I said, well, that's fine, but you would then have to assume that patriots all across the country are going into psychiatric evaluations and having them then prescribing them high doses of random drugs. And if you're on high doses of random drugs and diagnosed with patriotism, then you.
Well, I guess you're right. I just explain my opinion that it should be classified. That should have a very good well check about everybody who's getting armed, because I don't want the Second Amendment to be abolished. I just want us to be able to bear arms. And if they start like England, where the lady just got arrested, just posting have a sign on her chest, and they arrest her for that, not saying anything.
And I agree with you, Simone. I'm not disagreeing with you there. Look, to me, the Second Amendment is the most important amendment out of any of them. I mean, well, First Amendment, obviously, but listen, the idea that they're going to take our guns is not going to happen, for one. But for two, the point about the transgender stuff specifically is it's very popular across the country for background checks. Okay, that's already been a popular thing. Now, me personally, my personal opinion, and I have the easiest solution to all gun violence that has ever been heard. But people don't like it very much, but Opinions heard my opinion the other day on this, so I'll go ahead and give it out here. Is that we should give guns to every single person everywhere, all the time, on every street corner in America. Just pass them things out for free. The only check is, are you a U.S. citizen? Good. Okay. Here's a loaded firearm. Put it in your pocket. That's what I think we should do. Because if you did that, every single time that someone decided to try and do something stupid, there would be a 25 people surrounding them that would immediately blow them to pieces. So, it would be probably like a week or so of really, like, all of the people that are violent criminals would all get shot. But that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. But, I know this is probably not a popular or a good idea for most people to believe, but I think it would solve all of our problems. But again, if we're not going to do that, and we're not going to give every single person that you can think of in the country a gun, and we're going to live in a scenario where some people have guns and some people don't, then the way you have to do that is you have to make sure that it's more difficult for people that are completely deranged to be able to access firearms, because not everybody's going to have a gun to be able to defend themselves. Now, me, like in my scenario, I am always armed. I am never within I am always within 3 feet of a gun. Always in my entire life, I've been like that. So, but not everybody else is like that. And a lot of people don't like guns. A lot of people are scared of guns. They don't think they're a good thing. They think they're a bad thing. So look, if you're going to live in a world like that, you can't allow the people that are complete lunatics to be able to access guns, at least access them easily. And you're not going to get rid of the idea of illegal firearms. But the problem with the deranged people is that the deranged people, specifically in the transgender people, is that they weren't even classified as mentally ill, because they decided that being transgender wasn't a mental illness, even though it is a mental illness. They decided to not classify it as a mental illness, so they stopped listing these people as having major mental health problems. I think that if you are a psychiatric patient that has a tenuous grasp on reality to the point that you take major medication and lop off parts of your own body, you need to be seriously evaluated before you are ever allowed to be anywhere near a firearm, be anywhere near lots of different things, not just firearms. I mean, maybe in my opinion, if you have such a lack of grasp on reality, you need to be checked if you can drive or not. I mean, like there's a lot of things that I believe about that, but the
Simona,
reality,
Yes.
if you're not if you're not taking drugs and you don't believe you're in the wrong body, you should be okay.
Oh no, I'm not in the wrong body. Actually, I'm in New York, and I'm mad that we can't have a gun. I wish if I could have my own gun over here, but they don't allow us to carry guns in New York, and that's why it makes me mad. Why transgender can get guns and we cannot get guns, as we know.
I mean, I fully support what Walter's saying. I actually was saying for a while now that people who are on these medications and believe they're in the wrong body should not be allowed to have guns.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I mean, they should come up with some kind of law. I mean, I don't agree that transgender, they're normal people. I think they're sick people because they are in puberty and all kind of drugs. They make them insane. And my point was not about transgender, actually. My point was not to classify, to generalize for everybody so they can have a way to stop people from having guns. This was just an example of transgenders. Don't accept them to have guns, of course, because they're crazy. But my problem is they can generalize. Look at I
well,
was
in
discussing.
Simona, your point is accurate to a couple of points. The red flag laws. I'm actually not a favor of anybody that has red flag laws because they've been used against people a lot. But red flag laws, in my opinion, are not the same thing as something like, when you buy a gun, I think it should be a reasonably easy thing to do where you put your name in like you do anyway when you buy a gun, because every gun now when you buy it is registered anyway. I mean, if you put your name in there and it says, well, this person's been admitted to a psych ward 6 times. They've had, they're currently on 15 different, major doses of medication. Like, I think all of those things should be factors in what kind of guns you or whether or not you can buy them at all. I mean, I just don't believe that there's a reason that we need to allow that sort of stuff. But again, I don't think that they're going to be able to figure out a way. The Second Amendment issue, in my opinion, is already like they've lost on that issue very, very badly, to the point that I don't think that there's a chance of them actually being able to getting major gun rights stuff pulled away. I mean, they're losing in court in every single state. So,
I hope
they're
you're right.
delaying as best they can, but they're not winning. Every time it gets brought up anywhere, it gets delayed, and they usually end up losing. So.
I hope so. You, God bless you. Thank you. I just discussing last night when I see this meeting with Bill Gates and Zuckerberg about censorship. Zuckerberg censorship Trump for 2 years not to be in Facebook and give Bill Gates to the vaccine. So what it's all about? Why they meet together? What they want to do the Palantir to censor everybody? I mean, this is my scary point. I don't know. I agree with everything you said. I'm in this space. I love this space. I like everything you guys. I learn a lot from you, and I really like everything what I'm hearing. I'm just trying to figure out myself what the heck we are at this point.
Yeah, and I get it. And the deal is that we were talking about Bill Gates and the Zuckerberg meeting earlier a little bit. A lot of people were upset about that meeting. They were like, "Oh my God, Trump met with Bill Gates and Zuckerberg." Like, "Oh my God, it's the end of the world." Like, guys, please relax. Trump meets with all sorts of people all the time. Like, I mean, it's really not that big a deal. If you think that Trump has forgotten all of the problems that these people have caused, I mean, maybe you're not paying much attention because the CDC just pulled Bill Gates as like all their money out of there. And okay, there are a number of things that are happening that are pulling away from Bill Gates and pulling away from Zuckerberg. And Zuckerberg himself has actually admitted a lot of the problems that they caused. Now, the problem with Zuckerberg is that the general problem I have with him is I think he's actually just generally a coward. I mean, when the FBI came to him and told him to do something, he just did it. He just did it immediately. And you can say whatever you want about the guy, but to me, I think that he was pressured into a lot of this stuff, and maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, but at the same time, maybe you should have had a little bit more of a spine, dude. Like if the government came to me and told me you have to censor this kind of information, I would say, go get a warrant, you commie bastard. But
I mean, he literally chickened out of his fight with Elon.
Well, that was a stupid idea anyway. Elon's twice his size. Okay, like you don't fight people outside of your weight class. That's not a good idea. Like that's not a joke. Have you ever seen? There's a great video you can go watch actually, where it's a guy who's a ultra heavyweight boxer. He's like he's like 350 pounds or something like that, solid muscle, and he gets in the ring into a UFC ring with 3 featherweights, and he beats all of them like easily, like within like 3 minutes. There's a reason you don't fight outside of your weight class. That's not a good idea, especially in professional fighting. So, not a wise decision to try and fight someone outside of your weight class.
Walter, also that meeting, it could be just friends close, enemies closer, and it's irresponsible for Trump not to meet with these people. They, whether we like it or not, amongst the most powerful people on the planet. So the president of the United States should be meeting with them, knowing what's going on with them, and just have his finger on the pulse, especially being that he wants them to hire people. No one ever got hired by someone that wasn't rich. So we want Americans to get hired. We want to bring manufacturing back here. We want all that stuff. You have to meet with these people.
Yeah, I mean, you have to meet with these people, obviously, but there's also the other aspect to this where you need to, you have to remember that what they're trying to do right now, they're in the middle of arguments with India and a number of other countries. Now, India is reasonably important, specifically for the tech industry. So, if we're in the middle of a major battle with India on tariffs and other whatever else is going on, the tech center is going to be the one that needs to address that problem because they're the ones that have a lot of these people. Like, I mean, you have to remember the service industries have pretty much all outsourced to India. So if that happens and we start peeling that stuff back, just think about the amount of jobs that would create. If we pulled away all of our service-based stuff from India and started paying Americans to do that, just think about how many jobs that would be. That's an astronomical amount. So I think that the meeting with the entire tech industry today, which I did again, I find it very strange that Elon wasn't there. I don't know why that was because everybody else was there.
yewe nagize ikibazo bibiri na cumi na
At the same
karindwi
time,
Maybe he thought
abantu bamwita
that if he
bancamara
was there, that Zuckerberg would
biba ngombwa
try
ko
to fight Zuckerberg.
yewe njya
oh yeah,
sehashika
well maybe Sam Altman
barangira
being there was just
babajyana mu ntuza
hates that guy.
muri gereza
That might be the funniest view
ngarutse
I've
ngiye
ever
kubona
seen. By the
mbona
way, like
abantu mbona
Elon just
baraje
despises
ngiye gutanga
them
ikirego
all. Like
barambwira mu kirego
despises them
cyanjye
with like a
igicumbi
burning
mu rwego
passion.
rwisumbuye
You guys
rwa
ever seen that
gicumbi
show
mu
Silicon
rukiko
Valley?
rwisumbuye
It's about
ngezeyo
Silicon Valley billionaires.
barambaza ngo
My
ikirego
younger
ushaka
brother
gutanga
lives in Silicon Valley.
urifuza ndabaga
He
ndifuza
says
miliyoni
that
esheshatu
show is the
bitewe
most
n'igihe nataye
accurate
n'ubuzima
description
nataye
of
n'uburyo
the
bugaruka
Silicon Valley billionaires that he's ever seen.
umushinjacyaha
He says
w'umudamu arambwira ngo ngo
they're
ikibazo
all
cyawe ngo
extremely
cyararangiye ngo
petty.
ibihumbi magana
They
atanu
all
na
hate each
mirongo itatu
other.
n'umunani
They have so much money that
ngo
it doesn't
ugomba
matter. So the only thing they do is
kuzayafata bakayagura
fight with each other about extreme
birangira
petty
ndamubwira se ko nta numero y'urubanza afite ntanuza n'izo koronga nkaba nazifite mpa nomero y'urubanza nza kuko njye sinishimiye imikirize y'urubanza njye nzikurikiranira iyo sinayibona nagikorewe n'uwitwa Bigirimana n'uwitwa nuzo bakunda kumwita Alias Kibuga Nizeyimana Alias Kibuga umwe atuye
Any chance the
urwandiko
H-1B
undi atuye
visa
ukuri
program
icyo kibazo na n'iyi sawa kiracyariho ariko ubwo ko nteganya kuzaza ku muvunyi ni ubushobozi buke afite ariko icyo kibazo cyanjye kiracyari aho ngaho
akomeza asobanura iby'iki kibazo cye ndetse akagaragaza ko ubwo yageragezaga gushaka kubigeza ku nzego zisumbuye zo hejuru yakumirwa
ngo ndatuza haza kuza uburenganzira bwa muntu mu rwego rw'igihugu ikibazo yagiye gitanga bari kuri sata karagari ikibazo hariho meya witwa Nyangezi Bonana ubwo ngubwo bategeka ko ikibazo cyanjye bagomba kugikurikirana iyo ndishyi ngomba kuyibona irangira hashize iminsi mike cyane kubera nari narabyishimiye subira Gicumbi barambwira ngo porokerere nawe uhari rongera ndagaruka kubera ubushobozi buke nari mfite ndongera nshaka amafaranga nanone subira Gicumbi ariko wa gatanu
Are you including visa overstays in that or not?
umushinjacyaha ngo nawe hariya gihunani Kigali ndangije
So with visa overstays, you're looking at what, 75 to 100 million?
aho hashize iminsi
when you're talking about
ije ku murenge wa Bukure ngiye gutanga ikibazo
I don't know. The thing with
abapolisi bahise
visas
bafata
these days
bashyira muri
is
pandagali
we're
banyambikiramo amapingu
talking about specifically
inama irangiye abanyamakuru bamaze
non-records,
gutaha
like non-records of
bandekura mu mapingu
so that's what when I'm saying illegal.
bana kuri
I'm talking about
pandagali
just literally
ndataha
hop the border. They have
na n'iyi saha urumva iki kibazo
they're
kimaze
saying
imyaka
illegal
yose
people here.
nta kintu bigeze
Can I
bambarira
give you an
na n'iyi
example
saha
from New York?
icyo kibazo
It's
kiracyari
one
aho ngaho
guy with
nkamvuganira meya
H1B
ngewe
visa
akanyandikira
living
nomero
in
y'urubanza
one
rwanjye
studio.
ngikurikirana urubanza rwanjye
There's
kuko ngewe
another
nanjye
six guy
ububabare
living
nagize
with
ntabwo
him. They are not having
bunshimishije aho
any
ngaho kugira ngo
paper. He's an
batse
Indian. He
n'ibihumbi ijana na
bring
mirongo
his
inani
whole
akoresheje rishyashya
family
kuko bari
from
baciye miliyoni imwe na
India,
magana inani
and
babwira
they
ko
don't
turi
have any kind of
abanyarwanda
paper.
duturanye
So we
mu
don't
bihumbi
even
ijana na
know
mirongo
how
inani
many
akoresheje
illegals
sehashika
are in
ubundi
this
dukomeze tubane
country.
neza aho
One
kugira ngo bigire gutyo
H1B
ahubwo
visa
barambwira
can
bagashaka
bring
kunyica
6 people.
ingaruka
Can you
ngewe
imagine?
nagize
You
reba
can
ukuntu
just
bangize
duplicate,
ubu
triplicate,
aya ni
for
amaro yose
whatever
hano
you want to do it.
nagize
I
imbere
think
mu
we have
mara
more than
niyo
80
ngaruka
million
nagize
people,
nanisa nta kintu kijya
immigrants in this
guhinga
country.
nta
I'm
kintu
speaking from
nyimariye
New York, and I
ntazi
see it
amafaranga
with my
sinyabona
own eyes.
ngewe
I'm
nawe
sorry interrupting you. I just
n'ibyo
want to mention that so you
inuza
guys
nomero
know
y'urubanza
the
rwanjye
reality,
sinyibona
because you
ngo
don't
nibura
live in
ngewe
a big city
wenda
with the
ni
liberals
nk'umuntu wihibereye
and
noneho kubera ko nahise
everything is
n'uwazutse
handling for free here. And
nitangira
even
urubanza
if they
rwanjye
are
bundi
illegals
bushyashya
and they have
kuri
no
ubu kuri iki
paper,
kibazo ku
they
murongo wa
still
telefoni
go
twavuganye
and apply
n'umunyamabanga
for food
nshingwabikorwa w'uyu murenge wa
stamps, and
Bukuri ariwe Janvier
and
maze
they get
adusubiza ko
it
ubu
right
ngubu
away
Jean
with
de la Paix
no
agiye kuba yafashwe akabona
any
ubutabera.
verification or
ariko
nothing. It's
ntabwo
just
icyaha
one
gisaza
member
icyaha ntabwo
of the family
gisaza
has a visa and everybody else gets
icyo ari
everything
cyo
else.
cyose
Yeah,
ashobora
So
that's actually a really
kurengana
important point that a lot of people don't know about.
akaza
Chain migration is something
ukareba
that's
ko mu
changed
by'ukuri
underneath the
hari
Clinton
ubutabera
administration.
atahawe
For those who
tugafatanya
do listen to the show on a regular basis, knows that
n'ubugenzacyaha
I'm
cyane
looking
cyane
for
ko
an
no muri uyu murenge
adjudicator's
wacu wa
field
bukure
manual from
dufitemo
the
RIB
1990s, and I've been looking for
tugakurikirana
this for a long
tugakora
time.
assessment tukareba ko mu
Because I
by'ukuri
want to see what
atahawe
they did
ubutabera
from the 1990s. After Bill Clinton took over, he started changing the regulations around how chain migration worked. Chain migration used to be just your immediate family, like your wife, your son, your kid, whatever. But then they started changing that. So, your immediate family included your cousin and your cousin's brother's uncle, and you could do whatever the hell you wanted, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And that was chain migration was changed in the late 1990s. So I've been looking to see if I can actually find it's called an adjudicator's field manual. So for one day, if anybody in the audience actually has one of these damn things, I would love to read it because, essentially immigration attorneys across the country used to get those every single year. It was an updated manual that was passed out. Well, Obama, one of his, more interesting moves, decided to remove all of the versions of that from public record on the internet. In 2013. So you can only access UNCIS's adjudication manual up to 2013. Prior to that, everything's been removed. So if anybody has a physical copy of the original adjudicator's field manual from the 1990s or the early 1990s, I would love to see it because I want to read what they actually changed in it because I know they changed a bunch of stuff.
Simona, what borough are you in?
Queens.
Oh, okay. Yep, I'm familiar. I'm from Long Island. Worked in Queens a very long time.
Yeah, you know how Queens
Hey,
is.
Walter.
Yes.
I looked into that. I looked into that, and I contacted a few of my friends. So that document that you're talking about, I've never seen this, but it's like they've tried to erase the past. It's very strange, but there's fragments that we were able to locate, but there's no way to really jive what they're from or anything like that. It's just fragments inside of lawsuits and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I found pages of it online. I found pages of it online, but again, it's not something that would be published online. It wasn't something that was published online. You're talking about in the 1990s.
Yeah.
So you're talking the early
Yeah.
the one that I'm looking for is probably 89 to 92. So that's probably that's the time frame I'm looking for. So it wouldn't have been published online anyway by that point. And by the time you get to you get through Clinton, even if they started putting stuff online, they probably wouldn't have put that on there. They really would have started putting it online once you get into the Obama years is when they probably would have started moving it online. And at that point, it would have already been changed so much that it wouldn't have mattered. But then they just removed all of it anyway. And prior to 2013, all of the rest of the stuff is gone. So the public record on that, I wouldn't be surprised if National Records has some version of it, but I know somebody out there has a physical copy of it because every immigration attorney in the entire country essentially had one of these things. and they kept them. So if anybody knows an old immigration attorney, they probably have one sitting around. It's just not a common thing that people know about. I mean, unless you're an immigration person, you don't even know it exists. So again,
Yeah.
if anybody in who listens to this show knows somebody that has an adjudicator's field manual from the 1990s, early 90s, that's what I'm looking for. But that's been something I've
Yeah,
been looking for
Walter,
6 months.
is that exactly how they? So I was able to find other documents, and when I was talking to my friend and we were researching this a little bit, is that the actual name of it? Do you have like any of the code, like or anything, that relates to the manual itself? Like, was it listed? Does it have a number or anything? Kind of like the military has,
Maybe
like FM and
it might
yeah,
have. I mean, you're talking about an agency that doesn't even exist anymore. Remember that. So,
yeah.
it's INS, but so it would have been an INS number, which INS doesn't even exist anymore. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I found some, and I think I sent them to your DM. Either that or I collected them and I archived them. But it was so I found manual names, and then that's what you were just getting into is these are not for public release, and because there was barely any electronics back then, almost none of it was ever captured electronically where we could even, you know what I mean, like where it might have leaked somewhere out, but it's I don't know, it's one of those things where when I started looking into it, I got even more interested in trying to find it because it's very, it's very weird that an entire book, like this is not a small book. This was something that was like a lot of people had them. You know what I mean? Like this
Walter,
wasn't
I
like a
just
few of them going around.
texted you something. Can you see if that's what you're looking for?
yeah, I'll look for it. Wait 1 second.
But yeah, I just thought it was interesting because when I started looking into it, I started seeing I was able to find like updates. So it gives you a list of when it was updated and like the different documents that they were using at the time, and they called it something different than an adjudicator's field manual. It was a little bit different of a title, but I just got really interested in it because it's like think about like a book actually not existing anymore, and that's kind of how this is because this was like thousands of copies were given out and then it just kind of like withered away, as everything went digital. But it is interesting that you can't tell what they changed. There's no way to really see what they changed, and then you see now, from the court cases with the lawyers and stuff what the arguments were kind of around those times for citizenship, if that makes sense. And I know your family did the, INS stuff, so you have more knowledge than I do, but it's very interesting when you start looking into it because it was like, how are they even giving out, like, how are they even deciding on citizenships in the past? It's like it was just a question that I never even bothered to think.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very, very interesting.
So Jacktron, once you just sent me, this is an examinations field handbook, which is so this is how they would question people. So there used to be a very extensive process on how you would actually like whether or not you were going to become a citizen. The process of determining whether or not you were lying or not. So that's what you just found. So that's a examinations field book, but that's not the same thing. So an examinations field book, those would be handed out to the people like those are like immigration investigators. So they would go and interview people to determine what exactly whether or not they were lying about their immigration forms. That's what an examination field book would be. So, but that's not the same thing. An adjudicator's field book is the person who stamps the papers essentially. Like when you go to like an adjudicator for an immigration, like when you hear immigration judge, majority of the time it's not really like a judge, like a black robe judge. That's not what an immigration judge is. An immigration judge is just a bureaucrat who overlooks your paperwork, sees that you've got all the correct things, and then stamps the paperwork. That's what an adjudicator does. So it's not quite the same thing. But an adjudicator's field book was what the restrictions and the requirements and the regulations that would have been surrounding that. That's what you're looking for. So immigration attorneys used to always have these books. Immigration judges would have had these books. I do know some of the people from back then, but they don't keep any of this stuff. This is all stuff that would have been sitting at their desk probably while they were working in the INS. So but again, that's all. That's just part of a probably 6 to 8 month investigation I've been doing. So I'll find it eventually, and I'll publish it.
I can explain it to you how the immigration things works because I came in Reagan times, and that time you have to take your fingerprint seven, eight, 9 times. Every time you have to go to have an interview to immigration lawyer, you have to get your fingerprint and photograph, and you have to have your medical exam check at time. You have to pay for it by yourself, and they check your criminal records, and then you have interviews after interviews. And when you apply for citizenship, you have to prove that you speak English. You have an interview with a guy who's speaking English with you, and you have to prove everything. It was so difficult. It took me 10 years to get my citizenship, but these days something like unbelievable.
Well,
that
these days you just hop the border, claim that you're an asylum seeker, and they give you a car, a phone, $1,500 a month, and an apartment. So,
I I came
what a
as a
nice thing.
silent I came as a silent speaker. I left the Democrat in the I left the communist country in Ceausescu before the revolution, and they didn't do that at that time. Now it's completely different. They changed the
Well, the
law.
difference is that you were actually fleeing oppression. What these people are fleeing is, they're not making any money, so they want to come here and take our money. So what you came here to actually build a better life. What the people that are coming here now, which we've decided through our own stupidity, is to allow people that have no money from the third world, that have no interest in building a life, to come live off of our welfare system. I am genuinely curious. I want to see the numbers when they remove the temporary protective status from like all of these different groups. I want to see how many of these people immediately leave just because they're not going to get money anymore. I really would like to see how many of those people actually just leave because of that. Because I'm sure it is not going to be a small number. I'm sure it's going to be a huge number.
I agree 100% to them. If they don't get paid, they're gonna leave. That's the problem. They have to reform the immigration law. Nobody should get paid. My daughter, to get vaccinated, I have to pay for my own money. I didn't get anything from the government, and I work 3 jobs to survive. So I wish if they cut any kind of subsidiary and help for those people, and I swear to God, they're gonna live back to their country, because this is the key. They should cut everything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm upset because I fight for my life. I build a life in America. I have 2 houses now. I work hard. My daughter is in college, and I pay for everything. I didn't ask for anything. No welfare money, no nothing. And these people get here for free. I'm telling you, in New York will be a red state if would be a really election, not election fraud or bailing vote or whatever it is, because most of immigrants like me who come here for 40 years or 30 years or 20 years, and they build something, they fight for whatever they have, and they build a family. They all red. They all like Republicans. They all vote for Trump. I spoke with a lot of people of them. I mean, I walk in the store and they say everything is locked. We can't buy anything. We have to wait 15 minutes for somebody to come and lock the door to get the shampoo. and and even Russian people who come here like 20 years ago, they all cursing and say, "What the heck is this?" I mean, we live better in Russia than here. I'm telling you, everybody will be voting different, but they have to change the immigration law, and they have to change the voting law, and then everything will be just fine. I live it with my own eye. That's why I'm saying I'm sorry. I didn't want to mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, you're fine, Simona. You're doing just fine. But at this point, guys, this has been a great conversation this evening, guys. But I think we're pretty much done for the evening. And Jacktron, I'm going to send you a message because I think I actually might have found something about this book that may actually be a little bit more interesting. So I'll message you shortly. But
I
guys,
actually just sent you another thing that might be it.
okay, cool. Yeah, I'll talk to you here in just a few minutes, guys. But guys, this is the political theater. Thank you guys for joining us this week. This has been a very busy week for me, moving and getting things out of my old place, and now I'm actually all set up in this new place. So, hopefully on Monday we may actually have live video for the show. So. We will hope that we can actually get that done on Monday. If not, we will be looking at sometime in the middle of next week. We'll start having live video. We'll be streaming on Probably on Rumble, YouTube, and Substack are the first three we're going to start. Well, and X obviously, but for the future of the show, we'll probably be using the Spaces as a call-in version. So people that want to join the show and hang out, like a lot of people do, you're welcome to join the show. Obviously, we'll be able to bring people in, but it'll just be a little bit different in format. But guys, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. We will see you guys next week, Monday night, 9 p.m. for the Political Theater. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. We will see you next time. Now, I think I can't play the song that normally plays at the end of this because it doesn't work. So I'm going to have to figure that out really quick. So that should be entertaining. Because the audio that I was playing is actually working, but it doesn't seem like it's working to everybody else. Was it Opinions? Was it actually not working for you earlier when I was playing songs or music?
No, I don't hear it.
Opinions, if you know the lyrics, Opinions, just go ahead and start singing it out.
I'm specifically asking if the actual song and the audio was bad for everybody when I was playing it earlier. Anybody?
What, at the beginning of the show?
Well, not just at the beginning of the show, but like in the middle of the show, I tried to play the Starfish of the Day thing.
Yeah, the Starfish song was kind of it was kind of like in and out. It wasn't great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I'll have to figure something else out, but that's okay, guys. We'll see you guys next week on the Political Theater, and hopefully have all the audio the stuff figured out by then. So we will see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
mubona yuko iminsi 2 cyangwa 3 uzasanga batureyemo hasi mbere ukuntu n'umuhungu n'umuranga wasadutse uturutse muri ahirya kandi amazu yacu ari hano umusozi wabitse umusozi wigebiga wa kabiri amazu yacu yaritse reba ukuntu uko byabaye uhereye hano biramanutse binyuze mu nzu uri hano hari inzu reba na iriya yo hirya nayo yasenyutse aho ngaho bayikuyeho imaze gusenyuka natwe yacu ni gutya ko yameze ni gutya ko yabaye
impungenge zo mfite mu nzu nashyizemo amabuye hasi reka mpingure urebe n'icyumba gutya cyabarutse nubwo bajya kuvuga ati none ko mugize bajya kuvuga ngo bazangurira bambwira mu kwa kabiri njye kwishakira ikibanza ahandi mpageze aho ndategereza kugeza kino cyumba kiri hano ahantu bunzemo amabuye n'ahandi yaritsemo haruguru mu rubaraza ahubwo
ubona ko uzahano rero bacururizaga nawe bakoreraga buri kimwe bose ubu wahakorera abantu ubwo bakoze isaha zikomeye gutya urabona ko inzu nayo inagaragaza ko bakazayikomeza
bari gukoresha ibinombe ndibavuga ati reka tubimure tuba turanga ahubwo amazu yacu yose yabaye ibijegedere iya mashini ni ukuri zikara ziri kutubuza amahoro abana bacu nda amahoro bagira ni ukurara mu kibara
twewe ahangaha bano bagabo badusanze hano muri iki kinombe kino kinombe kimaze imyaka igera muri 40 kiri gukora nubwo kiba kiri gukora bagenda banyura munsi y'amazu yacu nubwo banyura munsi y'amazu yacu ubutaka bwose bagenda babukuramo ikintu cyo bakoresha kimara kubukuramo ni ibiti byo bategeshaga reba ngiye gutegesha byari kigenda bisaza ubwo muri hakurya bakoze cyane amazu gamwe gatangiye kwika gamwe garasatagurika buriya n'abaturage bamwe bo bimuye bamwe bo babashije kwishyura babishyuye bitewe no kubera n'abanyamakuru kuri Radio Gisenyi bari baje ariko ubuyobozi bwabyirengagiza bino bibazo byacu byo tuyatugira hano reba ndajya hanga hano honduye reba ngikijwe n'ibyobo hanga bino byobo biri hano bino byobo byangana umwana yagenda akagwamo imwe bajya bashyira amazi yabo hano hepfo ni icyobo buriya amatungo ganjye batarambutse gatoya gose mu ndasanga abana banjye akenshi nkunze kubagarura hejuru y'ibyobo akenshi ngewe usanga ndi bose abana kwa muganga hejuru ya za malariya hejuru y'ibyobo by'ahangaha izi mashini ntiwaryamisha umwana ku manywa umwana avuga ngo araryama hejuru y'urusaku rw'izi mashini
turasaba perezida wa repubulika kugira ngo aturenganure nganjye dufite umurimo hariya hiye abarara barakora ni ukuza bakatunyukagurira imyaka wavuga ndaho wovugira warangiza bakakubwira ngo ubutaka ngo ni ubwa leta ngo twe ngo ndaho twovugira ikirenzeho
twe kivuye cyo dufite twewe bitewe no kuba twewe aho baratubogamiye niba badashobora kutwimura ahangaha bino bidumburi babikure hano cyangwa kera badashobora kutwimura kwe kumva bashobora babifunga aho kwa kuba twe turabogamiwe nicyo tuba cyo dufite
batwimuye bakakigurira bakadukuranga tukagira n'umutekano nta mutekano tugira twarawubuze turasaba perezida aturenganure kuko abaturage tumeze nabi urabona niba batanasiza ntidusinzira turaraga hanze nuko
yewe nagize ikibazo bibiri na